The Insecticons might actually be the most terrifying Transformers ever created, because unlike Megatron, Shockwave, or Starscream, they don't actually want anything.
Ego, baby, it's too big to fake it, fake. I got an ego, baby, it's too big to fake it, fake. I got an ego, baby, it's too big to...
Welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is the Insecticons. Because on paper they're Decepticons, but emotionally, no. They're not soldiers. They're not revolutionaries. They're not even really villains in the normal sense. They're insects, not bugs as a design choice, not little robot beetle. I mean psychologically. They are insect logic applied to sentient machines. Most Transformers want something. Optimus wants peace. Megatron wants power. Starscream wants attention. Soundwave wants Megatron to notice how hard he's working. But the Insecticons, they don't want meaning. They don't want justice. They don't want a better Cybertron. They want food. They consume. They clone, they continue. That's it. And that's what makes them so unsettling. Because even the worst Decepticons usually have some kind of ideology. Megatron can stand there for 40 minutes explaining why tyranny is actually freedom if you say it with enough chest. The Insecticons don't do that. They just eat the microphone. Shrapnel, Bombshell, Kickback, they're technically Decepticons, but only in the same way a wasp at a picnic is technically attending. They're not on your side. They're near your side. And that is very different. The Decepticons don't really recruit the Insecticons, they tolerate them. Because having a swarm of self-replicating robot insects is useful in war. Right up until the moment you remember, they are self-replicating robot insects. That's not an army. That's a workplace incident. And their cloning ability makes this even worse. Because usually, if you're fighting a Transformer, there's one of them. With the Insecticons, you hit one and the franchise replies, "Congratulations, here are 12 more." They're like gremlins, but instead of turning evil after midnight, they were already like that, and now they've eaten your fridge. And this is where they get weirdly philosophical. Viktor Frankl talked about humans needing meaning to survive. Friedrich Nietzsche warned about nihilism when values collapse. Albert Camus said life is absurd, but humans rebel by creating meaning anyway. The Insecticons skip all of that. They are life without meaning, but not in a sad way. They're not staring out of a rainy window thinking, what is my purpose? Their purpose is right there. Eat, clone, repeat. No crisis, no guilt. No inner monologue, just vibes and mandibles.
I'm somehow done. Call me a weirdo, call me a lazy sack.
Pure hunger, pure impulse, no ego, no super ego, no little voice saying, maybe don't strip mine this village for snacks. Which raises a fun question. Are they even like other Cybertronians? Because most Transformers feel like people who turn into machines. The Insecticons feel like machines that accidentally rediscovered nature. They don't represent civilization. They represent infestation. Cybertron spent millions of years building culture, factions, politics, war, ideology. And somewhere in the corner, the Insecticons went. What if we just became a plague and for realsies, bold? And then IDW somehow made the Insecticons even more horrifying because it revealed the Insecticon swarm wasn't some ancient evil species. It was a side effect. The failed byproduct of the Decepticons trying to create the Insecticons in the first place. For every successful Insecticon, there were thousands of failed swarm clones, unstable little proto-Insecticons dumped beneath Cybertron to scuttle around in endless hunger, which is an absolutely incredible piece of nightmare fuel. Because suddenly, the Insecticons stop feeling like soldiers and start feeling industrial. Mass-produced appetite. And Thundercracker, somehow the only Decepticon with a functioning conscience that weak, outright describes their existence as torture. Which means even the Decepticons look at this and go, okay, no. This is a bit much. And the swarm itself behaves less like an army and more like a flood. The Autobots don't defeat it through strategy. They hold bridges. They retreat. They delay it like survivors trying to outrun a plague. At that point, the Insecticons stop representing evil ideology entirely. They become replication without identity, survival without selfhood, a species reduced to pure continuation. They are the purest expression of survival without meaning, which makes them more frightening than a lot of the big villains. Because Galvatron is insane. Starscream is ambitious. Shockwave is logic taken too far. But the Insecticons, they're not broken. They're functioning perfectly. That's worse. You can argue with Megatron. You can manipulate Starscream. You can maybe confuse Rumble with a difficult door. But you can't reason with appetite. The Insecticons aren't evil because they choose evil. They're horrifying because choice barely seems to matter. They behave like ants, like locusts, like something older than morality, and in a franchise obsessed with identity, with choosing sides, choosing names, choosing what you transform into. The Insecticons feel wrong because they don't seem to be choosing anything. They just continue. So yes, in the purest form, they are insects, not because they turn into bugs. Because underneath the metal, the faction badge, the weird little voices and the cloning nonsense, There is no ideology, no grand trauma, no tragic ambition, just hunger with a face. The Insecticons aren't Decepticons. They're what happens when Cybertron accidentally reinvents nature and immediately regrets it. So now I'm curious, what Transformer do you think feels the least like an actual person? Because the deeper I get into this franchise, the more I think the Insecticons might genuinely be something else entirely.
There's a voice in the dark, and it sounds like me. Every time I feed it, it grows another set of teeth. I don't know what it wants anymore. Only that it's ever full. And some nights I swear I can hear it breathing underneath the walls.
Right, put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's fine.